Hi there, everyone, and welcome to the Buzz on Earth podcast. So, a lot has happened since we last met. Rather, we didn't meet. It was more like you played my voice in this podcast, and I sincerely hope that you did not sleep through it. Because sometimes a nice drone of a human voice can lull you to a quick slumber. But it's time to wake up, guys. I'm bringing you this month's sustainability news podcast at a time when the natural world continues to battle with man-made crisis. Yes, wildfires. Wildfires continue to rage across the west coast of the United States. About 100 fires have burned over 4.5 million acres across 12 US states. And 3 of those California fires itself are among the top 5 largest fires in the history of that state. It's killing people, it's causing poor air quality and severe damage to our environment. And down under in South America, the fires have scorched a record 10% of the Pantanal wetlands, one of the most biologically diverse regions on the planet. And the fires in western Brazil raged across more than 7,800 square miles between January and August this year. And then you may have heard about the oil spill that's killing marine life around the lagoons and coastal areas of southeast Mauritius. The oil spill is bound to cause serious and long-lasting environmental impact on the marine ecosystems near the Blue Bay Marine Reserve Park, which is a wetland of international importance. So a lot of bad news. So this overdose of bad news and this lockdown has really put me in a state where I tend to lose track of what I'm thinking or talking about. And since I'm not allowed to wander about, my thoughts do wander, and quite a bit. Okay, so where did we leave you in our last podcast? Yes, we were talking about the tree at the bottom of the world. So here's the amazing piece of news that I read in the National Geographic some time back. It was written by environment writer Craig Welch as a memoir of the journey he and his explorer friends Brian Boomer, Andreas Holz, and John Harley took to find the southernmost tree on the planet. They traveled all the way to Cape Horn Island near the tip of South America to map a border that no scientists had mapped before. The final stands of trees at the bottom of the world. Now, as you know, no trees live in Antarctica anymore, although it was once forested like tens of millions of years ago, and the islands around it have grasses but no trees. Even the southernmost islands like South Georgia were pronounced treeless by Captain James Cook way back in 1775. So finally last year in 2019, this team found and identified the world's southernmost tree, Magellan's Beach, in the island of Isla Hornos. Due to the strong wind, these trees rise to a height of say 3 feet, and then they mysteriously turn horizontal and they grow 10 to 12 feet along the ground. At first, the team wasn't really impressed to see the giant mass of tangled roots or branches or whatever it was, because these trees look upside down, or you may say downside up, or maybe it is just how they're made. Some of these trees are dead too, and it felt like a world created by J.R.R. Tolkien and compressed from above by a giant hand, as Craig puts it. Now, it's true, forests are on the move. With global warming, tree lines are moving higher up the mountains, and tree species are also extending their ranges towards higher latitudes. As I say this, I'm stuck with a question. As the climate changes and the earth becomes warmer, will the north become covered with snow and Antarctica see a vegetation growth? I'm just wondering. Do post your comments. We'll come back to that. So that brings me to the second topic of this podcast, how the Earth has lost 28 trillion tons of ice in less than 30 years? Let's find that out. Did you know that 28 trillion tons of ice have disappeared from the surface of the Earth since 1994? That is the conclusion of UK scientists who have analyzed satellite surveys of the planet's poles, mountains, and glaciers to measure how much ice coverage was lost because of global warming that was triggered by rising greenhouse gas emissions. To put the gravity of the matter in context, every centimeter of sea level rise means about 1 million people will be displaced from their low-lying homelands. So now it becomes a basic unitary method to calculate the seriousness of this issue. The scientists also warn that the melting of ice in these quantities is now seriously reducing the planet's ability to reflect solar radiation back into space. White ice is disappearing, and the dark sea or soil exposed beneath it is absorbing more and more heat, further increasing the warming of the planet. In addition, cold fresh water pouring from the melting glaciers and ice sheets is causing major disruptions to the biological health of the Arctic and the Antarctic waters, while the loss of glaciers in mountain ranges threatens to wipe out sources of fresh water on which local communities depend. So that was a very heavy and depressing piece of news. The next pieces, I promise, are going to be happy news from responsible firms and responsible people. Leading beer company BrewDog just announced that it has been officially certified as carbon negative and unveiled plans to plant a new BrewDog forest in the Scottish Highlands. The self-styled punk brewery published a wide-ranging new sustainability plan under the banner Make Earth Great Again, which includes the company's 24-month plan to slash its carbon footprint and become a zero-waste organization through its sourcing of 100% wind power, the production of biomethane using byproducts from its breweries, and plans to install carbon capture technologies and switch to a 100% electric fleet. The company said it would plant over 1 million trees that would sequester carbon as well as promote biodiversity, provide natural food attenuation, and drive rural economic development. It will also dedicate 550 acres of the purchased land to peatland restoration in order to ensure that the promised emissions savings are delivered. Here, let me take the opportunity to ask you, did you know that one such venture is taking place in India too? Yes, this is called Mission Prakriti, and this initiative is being spearheaded by Buzz on Earth. It aims at carbon sequestration while also generating employment for the locals. And Mission Prakriti is actually an initiative to demonstrate social forestry as a unique model to solve multiple social and ecological problems, including achieving carbon sequestration of 50 to 20 kgs per square meters of food forest and offset carbon emissions. And if you want to know more about it and maybe feel like supporting it too, check it out on buzzonearth.com/prakriti. Let's continue with the spate of good news. I was delighted to know that one of my favorite naturalists and perhaps the most amazing television broadcasters of all times, Sir David Attenborough, was conferred the Indira Gandhi Peace Prize in an online award function earlier this month. The late President Pranab Mukherjee chaired the international jury that selected his name for the 2019 Indira Gandhi Prize for Peace, Disarmament and Development. In a statement, the Memorial Trust said, Few individuals have come to be as identified with the well-being of our planet, of all living creatures and their relationship with human beings as Sir David. It added that Sir David, one of nature's most staunch conscience keepers for over half a century, had perhaps done more to reveal the wonders of nature in his own lifetime than any other person. I agree with that. And at 94 years of age, Sir David returned to our screens just this last weekend with a 1-hour film on BBC One, which he says is his witness statement and his vision of the future. It's called Extinction, the Facts, and it is very different from his usual work in which he gives us a stark warning. Extinction is now happening up to 100 times faster than natural evolutionary rate, and 1 million species are at risk. So David says in the film, "Over the course of my life, I've encountered some of the world's most remarkable species of animals. Only now do I realize just how lucky I have been. Many of these wonders seem set to disappear forever." And he leaves us in tears when he concludes by saying, "I may not be here to see it, but if you make the right decisions at this critical moment, we can safeguard our planet's ecosystems, its extraordinary biodiversity, and all its inhabitants." Then he ends with a powerful punchline: "What happens next is up to every one of us." Yes. By the way, don't forget to watch Sir David's latest Indian wildlife bonanza, Wild Karnataka, with your family and friends. It's an Ultra HD natural history documentary film that is now streaming on Discovery Plus. I'm sure you'll love that. The next good news comes from British telecom and electronics retailer Dixon's Carphone, which is the news for signing up to the Global EV 100 initiative, as it pledged to switch its entire road fleet to electric vehicles within the next decade. It claims to carry out around 4 million customer deliveries each year and aims to switch all of its 300 light-duty vehicles and half of its 500 medium-duty vehicles to run on electric power by 2030. The company said it would continue to install EV charging points wherever possible, while also incorporating miles per gallon targets for each of its drivers to ensure a year-on-year reduction in CO2 emissions. Global Green Business NGO, the Climate Group, which manages EV 100, said Dixon's Carphone was the first technology retailer to join the initiative. Well, yes, true to that, when it comes to technology, Dixon's might be the first to venture into the domain. However, when we talk about cars and automobiles, which brand do you think is the first one to jump on the sustainability bandwagon? I'll pause here to let you guess. I'll come back and give you the name on the other side of the break. So stay tuned. Well, it is Jaguar Land Rover which has turned to recycled aluminum to cut down manufacturing CO2. The company has developed an innovative process enabling the recycle of old aluminum cans, bottle caps, and end-of-life vehicles into brand new premium cars in a move that could cut CO2 emissions from its manufacturing by more than 25%. Co-funded by the UK government's innovation agency Innovate UK, the process was developed in partnership with the Brunel University as part of a £2 million project which is called Project Reality. The project involved establishing a system for the recovery of the automotive-grade aluminum used to manufacture its products. Vehicle scraps usually are exported overseas, but the project drew on new separation technology to recycle materials from old cars so that it could be blended with aluminum waste, thereby reducing the need for virgin aluminum. JLR said it was using pre-production of its Jaguar I-Pace electric vehicle prototypes to test the process, estimating it could potentially reduce alar production carbon dioxide emissions by up to 26%. Now, I know I have bored some of you with all the automobile talks, but there's more good news as well, especially for the women folk. So stay tuned. So yes, the last in our podcast for the month is an eco-revolution which beauty brands are bringing to the market. Now, honestly, I don't know much about these products, but I know that the cosmetics industry produces a lot of waste, about 120 billion packaging units every year across the globe. So you see many tubes of mascara, for example, or lip gloss, and tins of powder, blush or eyeshadow, they can't be recycled at all. And they may also contain chemicals that are not good for the environment. Recently, beauty brand Sephora announced a partnership with the Environmental Defense Fund to continue the reduction of toxic chemicals in its products. It reported that 94% of its products now contain no high priority chemicals that are laid out by its chemical policy that lists over 50 ingredients considered unclean. Ulta Beauty, which is also a well-known beauty brand, recently announced a new overarching sustainability initiative called Conscious Beauty. This program commits to highlighting cruelty-free and vegan products in store. Ulta, like Sephora, is planning a made without list that will tag products free of parabens, phthalates, and 25 other chemical categories. But Ulta's marquee pledge is about 50% recycled, biosourced material or refillable containers by 2025. To this end, Ulta has teamed up with reusable packaging experts Loop, which is an initiative to combat single-use waste. This comes from TerraCycle. You may have heard of this company, the social enterprise which is on a mission to eliminate the very idea of waste. So Loop comes from there, and Loop distributes products including ice creams, shampoos and wipes in refillable containers. When customers buy the product online, they put down a deposit that is returned when the consumers mail the containers back. Loop is planning to offer in-store drop-off locations for Ulta by the middle of next year. So folks, that was it. Honestly, I wasn't expecting this podcast to go this long, but since it has, let me wrap it up real quick with just one food for thought. It is essentially the question I had put up in the beginning. Let me just repeat it again. As the climate changes and becomes warmer, will the north become covered with snow and Antarctica see a vegetation growth? Maybe in the next podcast I will have a well-researched answer to this. So see you next month with more on that and more such thought-provoking and eye-opening news items from the natural world. Till then, take care, stay safe. This is Shubho Das on behalf of the Buzz on Earth team saying goodbye.